There he is, John Farnham, The Age of Reason. A huge hit for him, taken from the album of the same name. Trevor Young with you through till 9 o'clock on Stereo 2BS, the day of the big race, the Tooheys 1000 at Mount Panorama. Trevor Young with you through until 9 o'clock on Stereo 2BS. It's 7 o'clock, time now for the Macquarie National News.
Good morning, I'm Marcia Vag. In this bulletin, uncertainty over the result of the Victorian state election. The royal couple spend their last day in Sydney after yesterday's spectacular bicentennial naval salute, and police pull out of a search of Arnhem Land for a man wanted over the questioning for the murder of 6 Aborigines. Victoria faces a week of uncertainty as postal and absentee votes are counted in yesterday's state election. Premier John Cain has claimed victory, but his majority is far from certain, and the state faces the prospect of a hung parliament. Opposition leader Jeff Kennett is refusing to concede defeat, saying the election outcome is far from being decided. With 80% of the vote counted, Labor has definitely lost one seat, Warrandyte. Prime Minister Hawke says Labor's strong showing in Victoria shows its policies are working federally.
What I've been concerned to convey to the people of Australia is that we had to go through tough times, and I went honestly to the people of Australia in 86 and 87 and said things are tough. We've lost a lot of our national income through a loss in the terms of trade, and we had to do things that we'd rather not have done. But I've been able to say to the people of Australia during this year now that things are better, and I think in particular we can look...
Why do you walk, Allan?
That's a habit I developed in Europe about 8 years ago. Went to Le Mans to drive a Porsche, and I got such a fright with the experience of going 250 miles an hour down the Mulsanne Straight that I really did find I needed a little bit more aerobic control of myself, and I've never been a mad gymnast or runner.
Just how hard is the mental strain?
We're trained to do the job, and as such, we should be pretty good at it after the number of years that we've been doing. But if something else is preying on your mind, if you've had a particularly bad run mechanically, if you've got a staff problem, if you've got a financial problem, anything that can detract and really start to worry you, the job is not going to be good, because I can't relate it to anything other than any other competitive sport, where if you're not 100% in yourself, then you're certainly not going to get 100% out of the car. And the car is only a mechanical machine. It doesn't have any sentiment. It doesn't have any emotion. It just does what it's told to do. And in that respect, I've always found it very counterproductive. If I'm not right in myself, then a lot of people have worked for 12 months of the year. A lot of money has been expended by our sponsors to do a job that doesn't come out 100%. If you can't finish the race, no matter what your position is, and walk away knowing you've done your very best job, then you shouldn't be doing it.
At what stage does the red mist descend when you really lock off and you want to be on your own?
Well, it'll certainly be some time from now. I don't find it particularly easy doing an interview at this time of the day, but I don't like to have too many people around about at least 3/4 of an hour before the race. I think a lot of people lose sight of this, that when was the last time you walked in on a board meeting at ANZ and just said, "Oh, hi, I'm here to have a chat. My name's Les Beard. I'd like to film you guys in action." It doesn't happen. And people in the business world, they lock themselves away to do their job, tell their secretaries no phone calls, no visitors. We've got to do the same. The only thing is our boardroom is moving around at about 150 miles an hour. And it does require a certain degree of concentration to do it well.
Sunday morning, and Allan Moffat waits for his car. This is the final test session for the annual Bathurst endurance event for modified saloon cars. The race will start in 2 hours. For Moffat and his co-drivers in the ANZ Sierra Team, this is a final opportunity to check that their machine is ready to race. It's been a long week for Moffat. 4 days of practice, 4 days of unofficial and official timed sessions, 4 days of tuning the car to the circuit. It hasn't all been smooth sailing. There have been politics and tensions, and perhaps more annoyingly, mechanical malfunction which prevented the car from getting onto the front row of the start grid for the race. Then again, Bathurst is always full of drama, and Moffat, and anyone else who accepts its challenges, is never surprised by what can happen here. Out he goes. Just a few laps. His teammates, Greg Hansford and Klaus Niedzwitz, watch and wait their turn for a final few minutes on the circuit. Hansford and Moffat have been co-drivers for years. 2 weeks ago, they won the traditional Bathurst lead-up, the 500-kilometre endurance race on the Sandown Park circuit in Melbourne. They know what it takes to win major races. Moffat helps Hansford belt himself in and utters a few words of advice. The track's dirty. There's oil on one corner. Take it easy. As Hansford goes out, Moffat talks to his second co-driver. Klaus Niedzwitz is a West German with a big driving reputation. Before this day is out, he will have added to it considerably. This is a time for a tight rein on emotions. This place exerts a strong hold over any driver who races here. The 1,000 kilometres of Bathurst are totally unpredictable. Anything can happen. The circuit has a powerful character. It can lash out with sudden savagery, striking down anyone who doesn't accord it full respect. As well as the complacent and unprepared, it'll cut down even the most professional of teams. As Moffat knows only too well, it can wound and it can scar a man's beliefs and pride. Niedzwitz has also been scarred by Bathurst. He finished second last year, but the cars of his European team were subsequently disqualified for minor bodywork infringements. The affair, with its long, drawn-out legal battle, left a nasty taste in many mouths. This race will be an opportunity for Niedzwitz to score a personal point. The West German is one of the best saloon car drivers in the world. The ANZ team has been heavily reinforced by the brilliant Swiss engineer Rudi Eggenberger, who wrote the book on Sierra development. Eggenberger has brought European mechanics with him to Bathurst. Moffat is proud to have Niedzwitz in the ANZ team.
I used everywhere second gear.
Yes.
And only once. And I did with traffic at 22.5 or something. Okay. Without traffic you can go 21.
Yeah,
maybe. Good. Balance is good.
It's lovely. I'm glad you did that, mate. That was fabulous. And, you mustn't always listen to what feels nice. It's the clock that counts. Because the first day was nice, but it wasn't so fast.
All too quickly, this final test session is finished, and Moffat allows an expression of quiet confidence to slip his guard.
I'm very happy the car is very nicely balanced. Sometimes they develop quadriplegicatus, if you like. That's a bit hard to say on a Sunday morning. And I was delighted with it. We don't push it naturally, we're just cruising around, but we can tell when there's anything wrong, and we just bedded in a new set of brakes and it's ready to go.
Longhurst has made a sensational start to oust the Falcon.
Over the top of the mountain, and here's Grice at speed with Allan Moffat tucked in behind him, and the Ford fans on the top of the mountain are going wild. They want Moffat to pull out and pass. Bond will now lead, and the fans down here in pit straight are going to go wild with enthusiasm. And up go the arms as Colin Bond leads Allan Moffat and Alan Grice further back, then on the outside to Peter Brock, then John Harvey, and then of course the Gagan Jane car.
It's the two Fords up front and a group of surviving Toronto.
So just look at the reaction to the Fords up the top of the mountain with Colin Bond just sitting in, not making any attempt to manoeuvre. He's playing it strictly to instructions in this, the final half lap of the 1977 Hardy Ferodo 1000 Classic from Mount Panorama.
And Moffat from the outside will sweep around and take the checkered flag first for victory in the 1977 Hardy Ferodo 1000. The winning pair.
Bathurst is really special to me. I've been fighting it since 69. I know what it's like to face that starter, how important it is to be on the front row and get a good start. And I've been lucky enough to get the checkered flag 4 times. The agony my mates share in pit lane, the passion, the anguish, the real guts and determination that goes on here, from the slowest team to the gung-ho teams, the new teams, and some of us old guys that have been here for many, many years. I don't think I would have ever bothered with the place if it hadn't held such a fascination from my very first trip here in 1969. It's a world-class event which anyone that comes to breaks their neck to come back. I was fortunate to be living in Australia and able to make it really the most significant part of my career. The Americans have got Indianapolis, but even the Indianapolis drivers that have come here have held Mount Panorama in a great deal of respect. Klaus, you start okay and go to the maximum fuel. Might it, so if that's more than if that's
3 Liter.
die 38 runter.
Na gut, da ist jetzt noch ein bisschen Windschein am Anfang, vielleicht brauche ich nicht so viel am Anfang. Ich muss das mal kontrollieren. Ich meine, wäre es gar nicht schlecht, wenn man ein bisschen hinterher fährt. Er ist so nicht zu warm, weißt du? Aber besser ist. Okay, guck.
You'll come on the light, you'll drive on the light, or you think maybe the computer?
Gives them only a flashlight. No, I know. No, I tried to go on the light, for sure.
On the fuel light?
Fuel light.
Okay. So we can expect somewhere between 36 and 38 laps.
Yeah.
Klaus, take the 3rd stage. You take the 4th stage. And depending what position we're in, either way we'll decide. It's been a long time since we've taken the checkered flag. But that doesn't stop us from trying, nor does it stop me from appreciating how hard everybody else along this pit lane is trying. From the smallest teams to the biggest, there isn't a guy that doesn't put his best foot forward to try and win here 1,000 kilometers around Mount Panorama.
In his many races at Bathurst, this is the first time Moffat won't drive the initial session. The decision has been made that Needswitz will face the starter's flag. The West German is an aggressive charger, and the team feels he will revel in the traditional cut and thrust manoeuvring that always characterises the opening sector of the 1,000 kilometres. Needswitz will also drive a second session. During their stints at the wheel, Moffat and Hansford will have the vital roles of maintaining the car's position. The team doesn't know who will take the car over the finish line. This will be decided by the tactical situation which unfolds. Race start is now close. Moffat has time for a few more words with Needswitz. Little more than an expression of good luck.
Start the rolling lap to the 1988 Tooheys 1000 from Mount Panorama at Bathurst. We've already had the check presentation to Klaus Needswitz, the winner of Tooheys Top 10 yesterday. Maybe that has taken a little of the shine off, unfortunately so, the man who actually sits on pole position. So I'm quite sure viewers would recall it's always been a tradition here at Mount Panorama. The top 10 fight out on a Saturday determines the jump.
Moffat walks back to his pit. He's done all he can. In a little over 6 hours from now, or perhaps devastatingly in less time, he'll know whether this week has been a triumph or something far less.
Of Tooheys top 10 yesterday, the ANZ Sierra. Let's take a look at the top 20.
The field moves off on their warm-up lap, which will lead to a rolling start. It's an electric moment. It always is. The practiced Bathurst participants may show no surface tensions, but beneath the veneers, they're tight and anxious, and very impatient for the race to get underway. Electrical failure badly hurts one team even before the warm-up is complete. This car will never fully recover from the setback. Moffat understands the team's despair. He lasted a single lap one year. The 162 laps of Bathurst are an enormous test of vehicle durability. 48 cars are starting the race. Only half will last the distance.
Almost a perfect formation. Klaus Needswitz will go with them. Longhurst is lagging back. Let's wait for the start, and here they come. The great race is underway. The first Tooheys 1000, and it's Johnson away quickly. But look at Klaus Needswitz up here on the inside, and he will take John Bauer. Very quickly up into fourth place was Tony Longhurst, and they are really sprinting at the front. Let's see with a big...
This is one circuit that you never count your chickens until they're hatched. And the further you get in the lead, the more nervous you can get. In '73, I lost concentration going through this corner. And this is one place that can give you a real thrill. Fortunately, we didn't have the walls many years ago, and I was able to do a 360 in the width of the circuit. But had the walls been there, no doubt would have smashed the rear of the car in. It still allowed us to recover, and Pete Gagan went on to help me win my third Bathurst and the first 1,000-kilometer event held here at Bathurst. Weather, of course, is super critical. If we're blessed with a long weekend of sun and totally dry, it's terrific. Can get your car very nicely set up. But in the early 70s, when the race was conducted really with practice only on the Saturday, and then you put your best foot forward on the Sunday, it rained very heavily in 1972. And coming through here in the GTHO with Peter Brock harrying me in the XU1. A big flood of water, a pool of water if you like, and again the 360. That one certainly wasn't a loss of concentration, it was just pure loss of grip, and again the circuit got the better of me. But for the best one of all time, the bite that really hurt took place right here. I'll show you what I mean. The thing that haunts every driver is smashing the car in practice. In 1986, in my Holden dealer team Commodore with Peter Brock, we came around here flat out, dropped the right rear tire in the grass as it was at the time. There was no curb. It had been raining, soft verge. The car dug in and instantly ricocheted right over here. This is my mark. There was a time when we didn't have a wall here. The only thing that would have ever stopped us would have been thin air and a nice ride about 800 feet down. Thank God that didn't happen. To their credit, the boys worked all night, replaced everything from the windscreen forward, and on race day, we were back out looking extremely good. To Peter Brock's credit, he never ever made me feel lousy about that. It was just one of those things that happened. But for the grace of God, he may have said himself. But I always admired him as a manager, as he was my boss at the time, to let that go through without making me feel bad. And even though we had a cracked wrist, got back into the race the next day, could have all but won it, except for a broken oil cooler. The luck of the draw. If it's not the weather, it's the topography of the circuit, and this is where the men get separated from the boys in a hurry. The approach to the Dipper, skyline initially, and coming through here at around 80 miles, say at least 100K. And to be able to finesse the car through there and not hurt it. I've always been very conscious in that part of the circuit about hurting the car. Over 163 laps, if you keep thumping and thumping and thumping something, eventually it's going to break. So the trick for me there has always been one of the most demanding aspects of the race, is to save the car, to cushion the car, and yet maintain speed. Because if you back off too slowly in an attempt to be conservative, then your lap times get shot to pieces. And success around here requires fast, consistent laps, but taking care of your motor car. A big change for me this year was not starting the race and having Klaus Niedewitz take over the first driving stint. It's a big thrill to see the car arrive at the end of Conrad, in shape, amongst the leaders, going for it. You know you've got the race well and truly off to a good start, and you're very, very happy to see your car in one piece. The only thing that's left is to worry about the next 162 laps.
Shots from race cam with Klaus Niedewitz. Up mountain straight to the right-hander now at Motorcraft, back to second gear.
Moffat and his pit crew watch the first laps of the 1,000-kilometre journey begin. Before the day is out, the 163 laps of this difficult 6.2-kilometre long circuit will have been the backdrop to a full range of extraordinary images.
Versus Eggenberger. The battle continues. It started last year, round 2 at Silverstone a few weeks ago, and this is round 3.
And there's been a few punches below the belt.
Johnson at this stage doing it comfortably, opening up a little gap there over Niedewitz. Longhurst fairly close to the bumper of the ANZ car.
John Bowe pretty comfortable with his position at the moment, just holding off this dice between Niedewitz and Longhurst, content to know that he's got a good break on the rest of the field even at this early stage. and he'll just sit in and let these other two do the dueling in these early laps.
So I think we're going to see the front-running four Sierras just
Bathurst is a testing mixture of uphill and downhill corners. Some are fast, some are slow. Above all, Bathurst is characterised by the appropriately named and breathtakingly fast Conrod Straight. Over the years, it has exacted a high toll in destroyed engines and drivelines. It has reduced many a driver to tears. It has claimed lives. The Sierras will stretch out towards 280 kilometres an hour, and in anyone's language, that's very fast for a modified saloon.
And through the chase, he made a fair bit of ground under brakes. I don't know whether he made much down the straight itself.
What's he pulling, about 7.5 down there?
Yep.
Down they come. Johnson leading by a second. Needswitz at Longhurst tied together, and the rest already struggling to stay in touch. Sierras number 17, 9 and 25. In a little over 6 hours from now, only one will have survived to cross the finish line. But no one knows that now.
Tony Longhurst, previous years here.
You wouldn't believe this place on Monday afternoon before the race. Cars in all the garages, transporters, cheek by jowl. You can't move. I've never been this far up this pit lane. I wouldn't venture much more than a couple of yards past my own garage. Monday, Tuesday, scrutineering, settling in. Wednesday morning, 11 o'clock, first practice session. The endeavors of 60 teams to get out there and find out whether they've got the goods that will do the job. No mean feat. Just getting here is tough enough. But when you contemplate it's the culmination of a year's work, a year's planning, funding, financing, staff, friends, supporters, suppliers, parts and equipment coming from all over the world, here, Bathurst, New South Wales, to compete.
When this Bathurst actually began for Allan Moffat and the ANZ team, and everyone else, is difficult to say. To all intents and purposes, it probably commenced with the Finnish flag of the previous year. In the months since, there have been many other races, but there have also been many major decisions and expenditures of effort that have directly led the teams back to Bathurst. The learning curve never evens out. Cars are constantly being developed in suspensions and power plants. Tyre technology is never still. Dunlop, which will be supplying most of the leading competitors at this Bathurst, regards the race as a vital laboratory. Many important lessons have been learned at Bathurst, and many of them have found their way onto standard road vehicles. It will always be like this. Klaus Needswitz walks to the ANZ Sierra. 3.5 hours of practice, split into 2 sessions, are available to the teams on this first day. No one will try too hard today. Although physical layouts may not change, circuits alter from year to year. It might be repair work, a new stretch of surface, a barrier, perhaps a tree the drivers use to line up the approach to a corner has been cut down. The ANZ cars run as few laps as possible to check that all the sums are correct, that everything is in place. This is not the time nor the place to get a rush of blood to the head. Not here. Bathurst can bite hard enough as it is without pushing beyond the limits defined by common sense and long experience. No one knows that better than Moffat and Needswitz. Time to go. Time to start the process that will culminate in the race start 5 days from now. These 5 days will be quite a journey. The ANZ drivers and the rest of the team have already been at the circuit for 2 days. The car's specifications have been checked and engineering support infrastructure established. This is an important moment. For the next 3 days, as drivers fight to get into the top 10, teams will watch each other like hawks.
Yes, well, we said the last few weeks that Moffat's looking pretty good. You know, stroking the car along, getting into a nice sort of mode without, you know, hurting the car or worrying too much about what Dickie's doing and the other guys. So, yeah, we think that's a smart move to put a few bucks on Al. With Rudy Eggenberger here and Klaus Niederswitz and a couple of the guys, obviously he's got that sort of input of technology that's required. As a driver, you know, he's very careful and very meticulous. He has to feel comfortable in the car, and obviously right now he feels very, very comfortable. And so therefore we know that, you know, Al's at his best when he feels like that. So right now, that's why we're rating him so high. As a person, I mean, Al and I get on extremely well. We both share a joke, and it surprised us both, I think, over the years that to think that we were in opposite camps, and all of a sudden we found ourselves really liking each other.
It's mandatory we fix that tonight. Get some grease.
Well, he's a very tough competitor. I remember when I first came to Australia back in 1975. One of the first people that I raced against was Allan, and he really wouldn't talk to me. He didn't want to know me, and very tough competitor. He didn't like to get involved with anyone else that he was racing against. But in recent years, now we have quite a few chats, and he's a hell of a nice guy. I think he's an exceptionally good driver. I think he's the sort of driver that really has to put a lot of effort into his driving and concentrate very hard on what he's doing. But he does get excellent results, and whenever I've seen him race against the other top drivers in close competition, he's always as fierce and as hard as anybody on the track.
As a man, I like the guy. You know, he's got a lot of style, a lot of class. As a driver, I mean, you know, his record speaks. I mean, he's done very well over the years. He's a guy that has to work at it, but he really does work at it, and he produces the results. And if anyone in the Sierra, as I said, is going to win, I think it's going to be Allan.
I admire him. I remember the first time I went to a race was at Surface Paradise before I started racing, and he was running the RX-7s for the final year, and just the presentation, how well organised he was. And I thought if I could ever get into motor racing, that's the sort of team I'd like to be involved in. You know, he's won Bathurst, he's won the touring car championships. All the guys that run at the front are very good drivers, otherwise they wouldn't be there.
While the European members of the ANZ team, the serene Niederswitz and the constantly computing Eggenberger, appear quite oblivious to any potential tensions, Moffat knows only too well that as this week develops, friends will become fierce opponents. All will ruthlessly search for signs of weakness, and just as Moffat himself will seek to exploit any vulnerability, so will his opponents. Motor racing is no sport for the faint-hearted. At this level of competition, the prizes and the prestige are valuable. They're fiercely sought. First talks. They don't like anyone getting close enough to hear what they're saying, but apparently the track is surprisingly clean and quite fast for the first day of practice. Without trying too hard, Niederswitz has already recorded third fastest time. Fastest so far is Dick Johnson, who has unofficially smashed the lap record by 2 seconds with a staggering 2:18.27. But the ANZ team have no intentions of trying to match his mark at this early stage. There's plenty of time to pick up the gauntlet. Moffat is content to take a back seat this first day, and he cautions his long-term co-driver and personal friend Hansford to adopt the same attitude. Moffat will set out to learn as much as possible from Niederswitz and Eggenberger during the week of Bathurst. The two Europeans are world leaders in the art of extracting maximum performance from a Sierra. As this first day of practice draws to a close, he couldn't be happier. The pieces of the carefully laid plan are falling into place.
The key to any successful
race team is getting what the driver needs related back to team management, and then the physical capabilities of changing the car to suit the drivers. No one circuit is identical to another, so there are little idiosyncrasies. And naturally, what we're very happy to see Rudy doing all the time is plugging into the onboard computer, and he is drawing all the information of what the car is doing mechanically, like oil pressure, like turbo temperature, like boost pressure, things that the drivers are so busy. We can look on the dash, but by the time we see it, we think, oh yes, fine. But his computer readout at the end of at any time he plugs in says, well, everything looked fine, and then there was a big drop, and that's what you just saw take place then. There was a leak on the exit of the turbo into the intercooler. Might have been small, but enough to set you back slowly but surely in a long race.
When are you going back in the car?
Well, when he's totally happy with it. Our program at the moment is you can have 13 development drivers. He's the most experienced with the vehicle and can relate back to Rudy Eggenberger as to, you know, in the right language. So it's foolhardy for me to do anything in there other than take what they're developing. I drove it yesterday after their first fix, and it was nicer than anything we'd had all year, so I'm happy for them to persevere and get it right.
Today there are 2 3/4 hours of untimed practice, and the sure and steady process continues for the ANZ team. There'll be dummy pit stops, like this one. There'll be tests with full and low-level tanks to accurately calculate fuel consumption. Checks, checks and counter-checks. Needsvits has seen it so many times before. Moffat works away at his times. On Thursday afternoon he gets down to a 2:21.68, a fraction outside the lap record, and he's content with that. Dunlop tyres are playing a big role in the ANZ Sierra's qualifying performance.
What's the tyre situation with Moffat? Is everything going according to plan?
Extremely well. We're using a new compound that we didn't have last year, D15, and it's proven to be super. Last year we had to use a harder tyre on the outside of the car to be able to handle the durability, but this year we can use the new D15 all around, and it's good.
Have you spoken to him?
Yeah, he's very happy.
That's not
the real thing.
As the day wears on, Needsvits starts to fully explore the ANZ car's performance envelope to stay with the fast men. He'll make his big push tomorrow, but wants them to know he's potentially just as quick. Needsvits on 2:18.02 is only a few hundredths of a second behind fastest Thursday qualifier Tony Longhurst. Johnson, while nearly a second slower, still has pole nailed down with his Wednesday time. Moffat and his team feel under no pressure. It's a comfortable stance to be occupying on a Bathurst Thursday.
Change your style a little bit, eh?
You're using 4th over the crest? 5th?
Top. Oh, over the top there, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it felt good. I thought you meant this one.
You have a white point on the road. You see? That's something.
I always brake just before I go over the hill. Just a tap.
Here.
Now, up at the top there, the fast left-hander.
The 3 ANZ drivers, the internationally ranked West German, the Canadian-born Australian veteran, and the former champion motorcycle rider, have established a good rapport. Moffat is now quietly confident that they'll do well in the race. As Thursday qualifying ends, he allows himself a smile.
Well, you always like to have pole, and to lose it by 4/100ths of a second shows how competitive everybody's getting. But we still have tomorrow to do the final grid position, and I think now forewarned that other people can do that time, which I must say is absolutely phenomenal. A 17.96 around here. Anything under 20 is sort of in the laps of the gods. You're certainly not fooling around. But the car's in one shape. That's the first big plus. We haven't put a scratch on it. Got a few flies on the front. That's about it. And tonight we should really only just do a little bit of servicing, nothing major at all. And we can go to bed hoping that it's got a nice clear day tomorrow and get that 4/100ths back.
800 rev down the straight. He reckons he's topping 295 k's.
Bathurst can be a desperately hard race. Within a few laps of the start, cars are starting to fall out. It's always been this way, and it always will be. It's the inherent nature of the long-distance events. A year's preparation for nothing. The hurt is immense.
Well, a disaster in the pits. It's a turbocharger problem by the looks of things, and this is one of the teams that I certainly thought would be right up there all race long. Soper and Medecky, both very evenly matched drivers, both very quick. And as you can see, disaster. There's hands all over the place, and there's no boost with the car. That's the problem. So it is a
Moffat can sympathise. He's seen Bathurst from both perspectives, as a winner and a loser. But he can't allow himself to visibly acknowledge his own vulnerability. Moffat masks his feelings. It couldn't happen to his car. Surely, after 10 years of failing to make the winner's circle, surely today he will escape the mechanical carnage.
We have Tom Walkinshaw coming into the pits at this very moment in car number 20.
Shoestring team or big budget team, it doesn't matter. When the blow falls, it can descend with savagery. Half of the massively funded Holden Special Vehicles team is humiliatingly cast to one side. The race is less than 10 laps old. Behind the mask, Moffat feels no joy at the Holden team's predicament. He knows many of the personnel. He knows the disbelief they're feeling at this moment.
This is a brand new car. Oh, they've dropped the car. The nut's not on. Goodness me. This is the car they air freighted from the UK. Some frantic work there. One thing Tom Walkinshaw hates, it's sloppy pit work. He's gone out in 43.3 seconds.
Oh.
And a crook start to the race for Tom. Oh, the right-hand rear is still foul.
Well, that's happened when they've dropped the car. He's not going anywhere.
Dramas for Tom Walkinshaw. We saw it all during our Motorcraft pit report. Now, what on earth has happened there?
So it goes. As the field races on, Walkinshaw struggles up the hill in his crippled car. The rear tyres are being ripped apart by the collapsed body.
It's gone. There's one tyre.
The attempt to make it back to the pits was doomed. The failure is total, horrifying. The Holden crew are shocked.
TWR are renowned for their pit stops.
The walk back to the pits will be a long one for Walkinshaw.
Here's the scrap for second as Tony Longhurst makes a dive on the inside to the hump in Mountain
As
Straight.
Needswitz gives way to a hard-pressing Longhurst in the Benson and Hedges car, a Sierra falls by the wayside on the climb up the mountain. The cloud of smoke can only mean serious mechanical failure. In the pits, next door to the ANZ complex, a highly rated Nissan team is being cut down. George Fury is retiring with an overheating motor. The other team car destroyed its gearbox on the start line. This team finished second and third last year. As Rudy Eggenberger dispassionately observes the aftermath of the Nissan collapse, a far greater thunderbolt is about to reverberate through the Bathurst pits. Longhurst, Needswitz snapping at his heels, goes past in the lead. The Johnson team's lead car is quitting the race in extraordinary circumstances.
How can you have a lose halfway down Conrad? It's the number 17 car. It's Johnson at the wheel. He's tapped the fence. And John Bow goes through, looks over his shoulder, can't imagine what's happened. There must be a huge problem with the rear end of the car. He's had a lose at 260 kilometres an hour. His pit was ready for him.
Johnson has come close to oblivion. Had the car not stayed upright, awesome forces generated by the tremendous speeds reached on the straight would have engulfed and utterly destroyed it. If there's such a thing as luck in motor racing, Johnson has just used up his share. His crew are devastated.
Richard Hay is our man in the sets. Listen to the tunes.
Well, now here's Johnson. Now you can see the rear tyre here. He's flat. He'd let go going down the straight. Now Neil Lowe knew about the puncture. He didn't know until we told him about the car going off down the straight. The damage looks fairly light. Johnson, though, obviously not a happy man at the moment. A bit of gentle.
The face of a man who's teetered on the edge of utter disaster. After dominating qualifying, starting from the number 1 position and staying clear of the pressurising Needswitz of Longhurst, Johnson has had the race torn from his grasp. A personal Bathurst jinx which has haunted him for years has struck again. The mist of his fury prevents Johnson from understanding that car 17 is mortally wounded. It'll take a single, desperately meaningless lap for the awful realisation to assert itself.
It's back up off the jacks again.
And the other thing is you can't have an engine running in a pit stop like that.
Just a bit worried, I think, about that rear axle. Johnson wins the award, I think, for the fastest man out of the pits today.
It's a serious problem.
A few minutes later, the ANZ crew watched the final death throes of the Johnson car. The mad, wild gyration down the straight has fatally damaged its driveline. No quick repair can save it. All that's left now is for Johnson to accept the inevitable, climb from the car and allow it to be slowly driven to the team garage at the back of the pits. Bathurst was only the bright red machine's second race. It doesn't seem right.
Dick Johnson, pole sitter for the Tooheys 1000.
The desperately unhappy Johnson is close to breaking point. His frustration boils to the surface as he seeks the sanctuary of his pit.
Also have Alan Grice
A few pits away, another front runner, the Grice Percy Holden, falls. And as the battle for the lead rages between Needswitz and Longhurst, Johnson explains what happened to his car, not knowing that he will soon sustain another major setback.
Out of the cutting, and he clipped the corner going up under the hill there and threw a couple of stones out in the road, and it's got a flat tyre. And I was past the pit entry before I realised that it was actually flat, and so I had to do a whole lap. And it's with the vibration and everything, it's the tail shaft, shaking everything loose, and I even got it.
Grice's face exhibits the strain of knowing that his car will play no further major role in this motor race. As he ponders the consequences of an obscure electrical fault, the third running number 2 Johnson car gives up chasing the leaders and is retired by John Bow on lap 26.
2 Shell Sierras hanging on the wall, 1 to go.
3 Johnson Sierras started the race. It's less than a quarter distance and 2 have collapsed. Despite the simple fact that the team's apparent disintegration strengthens their own position, the ANZ crew display no joy. If anything, they feel desperately sorry for a strong but fair opponent. On lap 27, the dramatic struggle between the ANZ and Benson and Hedges Sierras ends as Needswitz forges into the lead. Longhurst has also had a brush with potential disaster. The car's throttle jammed open twice, making defence of a narrow lead dangerous and difficult. It'll take 2 pit stops to fix the problem, and the Benson and Hedges entry will be a lap adrift of Needswitz and the leading Sierra. The gap seems unbridgeable. But, as practiced observers of this event continually point out, Bathurst is never over until the checkered flag falls. No one knows that better than Allan Moffat. He has a far greater number of Bathurst kilometres under his belt than Longhurst. As he prepares for his driving stint, he simply won't allow himself to dwell on the possibilities of a victory. He retreats within himself, thinking about just one thing: driving his allotted laps, and driving them well.
P1 plus 70. But just sitting in the pits, waiting for it to happen, requires a zeroing in, a funneling, a blanking out. I already have my earplugs in, got my helmet on. I'm thinking about my first lap long before I get in the car. The rest is somewhat automatic, but can't be taken for granted. I was very conscious of a good stop, getting my belt done up, which sometimes doesn't always happen, waiting for the car to go down and getting Rudy's signal to get on with it. It seems an eternity when you're sitting there waiting for the fuel to go in before you're permitted to hit the starter motor. What am I thinking about? I've already got the view of the pit lane. I'm really only thinking about not starting the car before I'm told to do so, and given the okay by the pit manager.
And the race leader is in, Klaus Needswitz. We take our Motorcraft pit report. Pit bay number 1, Allan Moffat steps into the car.
Oh, it's busy down there now. Perkins in, a driver change there as well. Robbie Francevic in the 45 car is out, back on the track.
Look at this. Look at the front end of Moffat's car. We're getting a lot of smoke out of that front brake region.
There's Larry Perkins ready to come back. And the 45 car has already gone back out on the racetrack. Gee, that was a pretty busy Motorcraft pit report. And Allan Moffat now in the number 9 car. 45 will rejoin the race, second position.
The decision to put Needswitz in the car first has paid handsome dividends.
There's Moffat. Well, he couldn't have wished for a better entree to pit stop number 1. His boy has done very well, Klaus Needswitz.
The considerable mental strain of battle is etched on the West German's face. He's tired, hot, dehydrated, and has shed considerable body weight. Yet he would do nothing else. Like Moffat and Hansford, he lives for his racing.
Happy and a little bit down because it is a very, very hard work, and it was very hard to follow Dick Johnson and the car of Frank Gardner. But I had to be a little bit careful with the tires, and in the end I was a little better than Tony, so I was in lead, and I hope we can lead the race until the end.
Tony's in trouble.
I don't know. I passed him, and immediately after me, when I passed him, he had trouble, something, I don't know.
He made a pit stop.
Maybe he was out of fuel.
Something wrong in the engine, we think. He had a long stop. The car's going well?
I have no problem at all. Everything works very good.
Adding Needswitz to Moffat's attack on Bathurst has been inspired tactical planning. Apart from being one of the world's top touring car drivers, the West German is illustrating an ability to infiltrate the heart and soul of the ANZ team.
This man here, he did a very good job this weekend. He helped me to find the right setup, to help to find computer management. That's all together. It's very important to be fast here in Bathurst.
Well, Allan Moffat said since Rudy's arrival, the car is just growing extra legs.
Yeah, it's like my body. I feel it. It's a part of my body.
One of the keys to winning here is compatibility of drivers and co-drivers. No use having someone that can go like a cut cat, who's hard on the car, someone else who's super conservative and therefore never really gets the potential out of the car. Two good drivers with sympathy for their vehicle and respect for each other is one of the real factors necessary to pull off a victory here at Bathurst.
During Friday practice, Allan Moffat and Klaus Needswitz are given opportunities to demonstrate, in quite different ways, the enormous iron control possessed by professional racing car drivers. As pressures mount, drivers begin to probe the thin line that separates a very quick lap from utter disaster. Some step over it. Andrew Mudecki is unscathed. Time to post good qualifying times is now running out. Accelerator pedals are thrust to the floor, and Mudecki is not the only driver to overstep the line. If anyone was taking it easy on Wednesday and Thursday, they're forced into the open today, and some are caught out badly as the general tempo of practice increases. Allan Moffat's long experience steers him past this carnage. It's a heart-stopping moment. A half second, and the outcome might have been far different. Moffat quickly heads for the pits. He said nothing over the radio link. There's no point in alarming the team. Potential disaster has been avoided. The car is safe. That's all that counts. He gives a handling report to Needswitz, who'll soon be setting out to try to take pole position from Johnson.
Maybe it's the way I'm not getting on the power soon enough. But to me, it's plowing a little bit at Forest Elbow. Other than that...
Normally, if you have now a little bit understeer, after 20 left, you get more oversteer.
Okay. About that. Okay. Yeah. Just be careful. There's a big dingle at Forest Elbow. Okay.
As Hansford prepares to get a few more laps under his belt, Moffat unwinds after his scare up on the mountain. He makes a joke of the potentially disastrous incident.
So maybe that is faster than the average time of the race.
Oh, much. That's lightning. They're all looking like old ladies up there. This guy, the other Celtic's car smashed at the end of the back straight. Went straight ahead into the wall. The other Nissan car and a Commodore, they bloody smashed. So I don't know how many are going to be left on Sunday. I mean, well, you'll have to put it on, yeah. The back one's okay?
Sure, well.
We got a hell of a fright. I went around the corner and there they were, two of them looking at each other. No track. Yeah.
Which car was that one?
It was a Nissan and some Commodore. They both did a 180 into each other and ricocheted, and I just got over close to the wall and around.
You need that like you need a hole in
Well,
it, don't you?
I saw all my Christmases coming at once.
Whereabouts was that?
I wasn't sure whether the impact of hitting them would have been worse than the kick in the bum I would have got from Rudy.
How's it going?
Right. Trying to get a few extra laps so I get a bit more used to it. I've done about 16 laps so far, and the others have got a few on me, but I just want to settle into it and be trying to be really comfortable.
You look pretty laid back all the same.
Tired.
Pretty confident?
Yeah, the car's great, and it just feels so much better to drive, and it just makes you feel at ease.
What's it like being back with Allan?
Great.
You two get on really well, don't you?
Yeah, we've never had any drama, and we do get on well, so that helps a lot too.
Take it easy. Watch out for the accident scenes up on the mountain. Enjoy yourself.
Yes, well, we're getting to the point where that's now the race setup, and we want to drive it as well as we can and see the time that comes out, and I was pleased with that 21.7 popping up like that in traffic. That augurs well for Sunday.
Yeah. You feel good within yourself about the way it's going?
Oh yes, I'm just, happy that now everything's running smoothly logistically. The team's working extremely well, and with Rudy taking the responsibility, the preparation, my mind's now just drifting towards the race, and I'll be a happier driver.
What about the car?
Car is fine. One little aspect, which is a facet we'll just have to put up with. It's a compromise. We can't just quite get it right on one corner, but it's so good on the others that we're not prepared to change it.
Alan, how do you feel about these other guys along pit row? Have you divorced them from your mind at this stage, or are you still aware that they're out there?
Well, we know that come Sunday they don't run the race just for us to run around. We do have competition, but I try not to think about them. What we try to achieve is our 100% of our capabilities. There's no use worrying about what 100% of somebody else's is.
Hansford comes back in. Needsvits, now ready to take on Johnson, seeks a report on the condition of the track. He's determined to stamp his authority on the time trials and grab the coveted pole position. Needsvits is certain the ANZ car has the potential for a 2:16 dead. Johnson stopped the clocks at 2:16.46 earlier in the session. Needsvits, whose fastest time so far is the 2:18.02 from Thursday, is psyching himself up to lop 2 seconds off that time. 2 seconds. Doesn't sound much. Just an eye blink. But at this level of competition, it's a considerable obstacle. And if he does it, he'll have hurled a vital psychological blow at the Johnson camp. Needsvits is confident he can do it. Out he goes. The timing looks just right. The weather remains mild, there aren't too many other cars on the track, and with a bit of luck, he'll get a clear run at the clock. If he can pull it off, the reverberations along pit row will be profound. Moffat confesses great admiration for Needsvits.
To have him by reputation, and after a half an hour with him on Tuesday, I was more than delighted. He's a real gentleman, very likable, which is kind of nice to have when you're working with a stranger. Tried extremely hard to Australianize himself, if you like. He wasn't a big timer. I liked him a lot from the very beginning. When he got in the car and started doing the lap times that were so evident from the very first day of practice, that like turned to respect in a hurry.
The plan of Needsvits to grab pole position from Johnson runs into trouble almost immediately. Within a few laps, the Sierra is back in the pits with a serious mechanical problem. After a flawless week, well, it's an annoying setback to the Moffat team. Quite suddenly, the situation changes. Johnson's pole time now looks significantly more secure. Time is short, and as the mechanics work furiously, the watching Moffat and Hansard exude calmness. What else can they do?
Lap, but after the first hairpin, I have to use the first gear. I couldn't go out of first gear, so it is finished now. I hope we can repair the gearbox, and so I can try again.
You haven't got much time?
Yeah, we can get it in 20 minutes, so I have 10 minutes time to qualify the car again.
How strong are they in the gearbox department? Has this happened to you before?
Yeah, once we have it, but we use 3 times the first gear on this track, and maybe it is too much, so we have to try only second in the race. But for qualifying, you need 3-4 times the first gear.
What is your fastest lap so far?
My fastest lap I did yesterday is 18.0, and I hope I can go 16.5 or something like this.
And what's your fastest one so far today?
I did a 20.7.
Yeah, well, we've got enough people. We should be able to do it, and that'll just let him get back out there again for a couple of laps. I hope that's what happens.
It was very unfortunate it happened on his fast lap.
Well, it's unfortunate when it happens anytime. If we have enough time to get back out and qualify, that's what we really want.
All of them, from Moffat down, are seething, but they won't let their feelings out into the public arena. Needswitz particularly appears calm and in control of his feelings, but that glance at the watch reveals his anxiousness. As the time to the end of qualifying slips by and the car remains marooned in the pits, Needswitz is aware that the other top runners are still hard at work. Johnson now looks very safe. Longhurst and the leading Holden driver, Perkins, are whittling away at their times. Johnson team member John Bauer appears to have secured second fastest time, just over a second slower than his leader. Perkins can't match the speed of the Sierras, and his Holden sparring partner Alan Grice is also off the pace. The gearbox has been replaced in 24 minutes. There's only a few minutes of qualifying left, perhaps time for 2 laps. Out he goes, but it's an almost impossible task. Perhaps a little anxious. His rhythm affected, Needswitz is unable to put down a scorcher with the 2 laps available to him. The time is 2:18.3, slower than the day before. The 2-second gap to Johnson has been unbridgeable after all. But Needswitz thinks he still could have done it.
Okay, it's possible. At 16, it's possible. Tomorrow.
Well, rather you than me, thanks.
Klaus, are you happy with the car?
I'm very happy with this car because it is an Eggenberger car, and I have to say this team works very, very good, very professional, and I hope we can finish this race under the first 3.
Everybody looks very relaxed.
Yeah, that's important to relax, to work very, very quiet. If you have a lot of stress, it's not so good. Not for me.
Yeah, in that one.
The victims from the Friday qualifying session are brought back to the track repair bay. Each of them will be resurrected in amazing overnight operations. But only this car, the second Caltex entry, will survive the 1,000 kilometres of the race. The Madeki Sierra and each of the other machines will all be race casualties. One won't get a start because of poor qualifying times. This is a despairing business for many of the crews. Months of work and tens of thousands of dollars have been virtually negated in the space of a few brutal seconds. The Nissan Works team has been particularly hurt after solid practice times during the previous 2 days. This is the car Moffat nearly ran into coming off the mountain.
And we come down into Forest Elbow around the right-hand kick before Forest Elbow, and the guy on the Commodore moved over to let Jonesy through. Didn't see me, I was right behind Al, and he just turned straight into my door, drove into the passenger side door and forced it in the rock wall, hit the rock wall and turned around and spun and went into the other fence. Didn't really hit that hard. All it's done is made it very inconvenient. These things happen, don't they, when they do?
So you should go back together, though, say.
Yeah, but it's not leaking or it all still starts and does all those things. Mechanically, it's good. There's a lot of superficial damage.
How do you feel? You okay?
Right. Yeah, I had a little bit heated at the time. Decent better. Is that enough?
The lights burn late on Friday night. This extraordinary operation is probably unique in international motorsport. Technical teachers and dozens of their students fall upon the damaged vehicles with an incredible enthusiasm. By daylight, each of the cars will have been repaired to highly professional standards. The paint might still be damp, but the mechanical integrity of the machines is totally intact. In 1986, the Holden dealer team Commodore, which Moffat crashed in practice at the top of the circuit, was rebuilt in this facility overnight, only to fail in the race. Moffat will be eternally thankful to these workers, but sincerely hopes he never has to call upon their services again. But, as many team managers have freely admitted, it's comforting to know that the repair apparatus exists.
Allan Moffat steps out of the car.
Dickie Johnson definitely getting back in to the 18 car for the afternoon session.
Yes, we're covering both of these for you. There's Dick back at the wheel. As Neil Lowe said not too long ago, there's still a long way to go, and they're quite happy with the way their third car is running. So they're still in this with a big chance. Running fourth at the moment. The Moffat car is about to come back out of the pits.
"37 seconds. 5 seconds slower than the first stop, but quick all the same. Moffat immediately reports a slight problem with the car, but is assured all is well.
When the maximum turbo came on about 7, the clutch would start to slip. So I had to just change it about 6.5 and gently put the gas on. It would spin if you gave it the full throttle.
Tell these guys, or Rudy. Tell these guys, the camera Rudy. Ja, hat gesagt, beim Anfahren hier, nur bei Vollgas.
Ja, wenn man so nicht mit Vollgas anfahren.
Ja,
Da Idiot. Ja, merkst du, das soll schön so oft wegfahren, nicht mit Vollgas. Dann geht die Kupplung kaputt.
Johnson, fighting with Bell to drag their third and sole surviving team car up through the field, is stalled by starter failure. It hardly seems possible. The disbelief and frustration is all too obvious. As Moffat, accompanied by Hansford, who's not due to take the wheel for another hour and a half, heads for the ANZ team restroom, he knows that victory, tantalisingly, is within their grasp. The car is now over a lap clear of the second-placed Sierra of the Benson and Hedges team, and there's no real sign that it's marshalling itself for an attack in the middle section of the race. While this may be so, any strong running car within several laps of the leader must be considered a potential threat. Any mishap, a puncture, fuel shortage, electrical failure, or crash, anything at all, can send this race tumbling down around any team. Moffat and his men hold no mortgage over that impossibly indefinable thing called luck. They can be struck down as readily as anyone else along pit row.
All the observers.
With the halfway point now passed, it's been a long time since Moffat's been in such a position at Bathurst. He doesn't believe they have the race by the scruff of the neck just yet, but they're close, and it's crucial the team members keep their heads.
Into the pits. The big thing is when you go out, apparently also for the engine, you go out slowly and you put her in a second, don't rev her up high. When you go out the pit lane, I'd say you can almost even be in second gear by the time you get to the end of the pits, in second gear, and then just up the back straight. You don't have to jam it, and don't take her up to 7. just take her up to 6, change her into 3rd. Apparently something about the water when it's sitting there, it all bloody coagulates. So the first lap, it kind of bubbles itself up again. By the time you go up Mountain Street. But definitely first at the cutting, still gunned it out of the cutting. 2nd, 3rd, exactly. And as soon as we got up to the top of McPhillermy, I pulled her into 4th there. She glides through there nicely in 4th. Just seems to be happy.
Faster than before, he's using 3rd gear all the way now.
Yeah, well, that's, absolutely pointless. The car is just sitting there nicely in 4th, over the crest in 4th, through. The red car was like an old lady through there. Just pulled 3rd over the skyline, quickly into 2nd. 2nd through the dip. Sometimes I went up to 3rd down to Forest Elbow, but if you want to give yourself any luxury, leave it in 2nd there. And I never even thought of using 1st at Forest Elbow. And then I wasn't using 1st down here either, just 2nd. I think that was...
At lap 71, the pace car comes out for the 2nd time to allow the recovery of stalled vehicles from around the circuit. This gives team managers time to do a few sums and reflect on whether they feel their car will have any part to play in the last-minute dramas, which always afflict Bathurst.
Not really. It could have been. We broke a throttle spring over the top of the mountain. You've got 500 horsepower shoving you down into the S's. It's probably a good quick way to turn a car into a monument. So having survived that one, we're reasonably fortunate to be out there running in 2nd place.
Well, how much time did you lose over that incident?
We didn't lose that much time, but we bundled out back onto the circuit just as a course car came out, and of course that put us behind a lap because you had to queue up behind that lot, and we just missed the cut. So there you lose 1 lap. So we've tortured all the way and got ourselves back. We got ourselves back. It's only to lose it again. Our 2nd driver's not as quick as the German man in the ANZ car.
Racing resumes on lap 77. Each lap will now pass with agonising slowness. The next goal is to pass the 100 mark. Then and only then will Moffat entertain the thought that the car might make it. There is still a long way to go. Time for the patient Hansford to go into the car is now close. For nearly 100 laps, he has watched the car pass the pits with the regularity of a Swiss watch. Its lap times have hardly varied. He's watched the execution of 2 smooth and efficient pit stops. He's listened to Moffat explain how well the car is handling the circuit. Greg Hansford is about to have an awesome responsibility thrust upon him. He must bring the car home, fresh and capable of surviving the final session to the checkered flag. In it comes.
And there we have Klaus Niedzwitz stepping out of the number 9 ANZ Sierra. The word we had was that Greg Hansford would step in. Looks like they're doing a pad change.
Those brakes have been problematic on most of the Sierras here this afternoon. Yeah, it'll be nice to see Greg Hansford go around. He's gone around here in recent years with Moff. Before that, of course, very fast on motorbikes.
Exceptionally, yeah.
Seeing him up here in 1974, the Easter meeting. Most exciting motor racing I've ever seen, and he's pretty good on 4 wheels as well as Greg Hansford.
There's Klaus. He's done everything that was asked of him today. Rudy Eggenberger has done the same. Pad change, one of the Eggenberger teamsters in here. And ready to put the wheel back on. They're already holding a 2-lap break over Tony Longhurst in 25, so they can afford the luxury of an extended pit stop to make sure everything is just super smooth for the run to the flag. Yes, that's if the car starts. Yes, it has. So Greg Hansford finally gets a chance
It's been another good stop. Driver change, full load of fuel, fresh set of tyres and a scheduled brake pad change, all in 1 minute 15 seconds. All the car has to do now is hold together. Surely with 100 laps down, it'll last out the rest of the distance. Needswitz is certain the car will bring them home to a victory.
Out and in. Okay. Otherwise, scratching. Klaus, your job is finished?
No, I don't believe that, because maybe I have to drive the last stint, but I'm not sure, so we have to decide after the stint of Greg.
Now, how was the car that time? They say the clutch was slipping a little?
No, the clutch works very good, but I had still a little bit problems with the brakes, because it needs very much brakes on this circuit here, so we changed the front.
Changed the pads.
Yeah, that's all.
Apart from that, the car is going very well.
Everything was good. The tires are very, very good, and the engine, it's good, so we don't have any problems.
Plenty of room now. But about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, when that big board says it's your car out there in the lead, and you've just passed the 100-lap mark, people start to sense where the winner is. 10 deep. More and more of our own staff get closer and closer. The pressure starts to really gnaw at you. With the fantastic vision we have, the monitor showing the car going all the way around the circuit, we're able to live every ounce of the track. A sniff of smoke, any unusual line, start to worry. You choose your co-drivers based on their abilities and the faith you have in them, but that doesn't stop the gnawing that starts to work at your stomach, knowing that you can possibly pull this off.
Who's this?
221.826.
222.876, yep. 876.
The seeds of the belief of Allan Moffat and his Sierra team that they could win this race were sown on Saturday morning.
22.723.
After the Friday gearbox failure, which effectively prevented Klaus Needswitz from mounting a full-scale attack on pole position, the ANZ car dominates the special Top Gun runs against the clock. 12 drivers, spurred on by a rich purse, are allowed a single flying lap. Needswitz fully exploits the opportunity to score a psychological advantage over the other drivers. The Top Gun cars are essentially in race trim. Johnson, the fastest qualifier, is equally determined to be judged Top Gun, and the runoff between these two super skilled sportsmen is awaited with considerable interest. Moffat and Eggenberger keep Needswitz informed of other drivers' times by radio, but none of them, especially the West German, is under any doubts that the man they'll have to beat is Johnson.
Very quick here on Thursday. Had gearbox problems yesterday, but expect a quick time from Klaus.
This is one man who had his heart set on one thing last year, and that was winning the top 10 runoff this year.
By Allan Moffat, but with Harvey and heads to the top of the mountain. Allan Moffat's car.
We take race cam from Klaus Needswitz, ANZ Sierra, as he comes out of BP cutting and heads to the top of the mountain. Really works the car hard, but ever so smooth. As you can see. Coming down towards Skyline.
Just stay away from those ripple strips across the top there. They're more like boulders. You clip one of those and it can be disastrous, as several people have already found out. But Needswitz is smarter than that.
Great race cam picks there as he heads down to Forest Elbow. Wide exit there.
Here comes the ANZ Sierra, number 9.
And is he going quick or what?
A second faster on the split time at Forest Elbow.
Yeah.
Well, I'd say Klaus might be lining up here for a fairly sizable chunk of the $40,000 prize money. He's looking good.
Checkered flag time for Klaus Needswitz and the ANZ Sierra. Across the line on a quick time.
The ANZ Sierra team is delighted with the race trim time of 2:18.246. Both Johnson and Longhurst realise it will take a first-class performance to put down the West German driver.
Klaus, so far the fastest man at 2:18. Was it a good lap for you?
No, it was not a perfect lap. I missed one time the gear, so I lost maybe 1 second. And okay, I have to accept.
Does this feel like a race-winning car to you?
Yeah, it's a real race car. And I'm happy to be here in Australia, and I'm happy to be under the first top 10.
As Bow leaves the pits, Moffat is among the first to congratulate Needswitz as he steps from the Sierra.
I know we should have put it in before.
Aber der geht gut.
Ja. Habe ja gesehen, hast du wirklich gehackt da.
Ach, haben Sie nach innen geschaltet?
Hä?
Haben Sie nach innen geschaltet?
Longhurst fails to beat Needswitz's time. Bow is close, but not close enough. If Needswitz is to be beaten, Johnson will have to do it.
How was it through the dipper? Did you find it really bite you in the dipper? I thought I saw you grab another gear in the dipper. Did it slow you
I couldn't go in the first gear.
Oh, hell.
Because in qualifying you go with first gear there.
Sure, why not?
And also did a mistake.
Johnson goes out. Needswitz settles in front of a monitor to watch his rival's lap. He's confident that his time will be hard to beat. Johnson fails by a full second. The belated victory is sweet. The prize is welcome, but pole position would have been better.
You must be very happy.
Yeah, I'm very happy to be in this car, which Rudy Eggenberger built, and I'm happy to do this time. It was a little bit slippery, the circuit this morning, but I'm the fastest one, so I'm happy.
You were quietly confident, Alan?
Well, I know the tremendous effort that Rudy puts into the technology that's in the car. It's just mind-blowing. This car, if you put wings on it, would be a candidate at Cape Canaveral. And Klaus has done just such a super job behind the wheel. We're just now waiting to do our preparations this afternoon and prepare the car to win the race.
What about you, Rudy? You must be happy too?
Yes, I'm very happy.
What about putting Johnson that second behind, though? That must be of psychological value to you?
I saw he was sometimes a little bit over four wheels. The reason maybe it's too slippery, and so he was a little bit slower than me. I'm happy.
You go along with the psychological barrier situation, Alan? That second's pretty important.
Oh, certainly, and I think it brings the time, the official time that was recorded on Friday back.
After the Top Gun victory, the team concentrates on preparing the car for the race. The major task is inserting a new engine. There's nothing wrong with a practice engine, but after the stresses and strains of the past few days, it would be too big a risk to leave it in the car. The team will run a few laps during the afternoon to check that all is well. Moffat is determined that his crew will not have a late night on the eve of the race. Whilst many other teams will struggle with various problems into the daylight hours, the ANZ Sierra will be put to bed early. Moffat has too many memories of his own days as a struggling young motor racer. Of low budgets, second-rate accommodation, windy garages, and of being desperately tired by many late nights. Not anymore. 9:30, only the man and his car are left. It's a moment that needs few words. It's been a long time since Allan Moffat won Bathurst. He feels that he will go close tomorrow. Feels. Before the 1988 Bathurst 1000 is ended, this man's pride and belief in himself will have been seriously stretched to breaking point. His innermost, most private emotions will have been exposed to a massive audience. His soul will have been stripped bare. But how could he know that now?
Run to stop to fuel stop. It starts with 120 litres, and that normally would run an hour and a half, full bore.
Yeah.
So we'll probably leave Greg in there till about 4 o'clock.
Good.
And then I'll just enjoy the last hour.
The last half hour.
I haven't had too much enjoyment up here for the last 10 years.
No, it has been.
10 years since we last won it.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, well, it's a nice 10th birthday present for you.
The kick on, right.
Yeah, that's terrific. But that car is going so beautifully. Love it. Sounds beautiful.
It has got a nice sound.
Oh, lovely. I mean, we were up in Caltex watching on the corner there, and when you came round the corner, well, your driver came round the corner, he was just smooth and sweet, and
Good sound.
With the race now in its closing stages, the pace car comes out again. With the dramatic slowing of the cars and the serious disturbance to their systems, perhaps this is where the reasons for the last great shock of this race may lie. Moffat and the members of the ANZ Sierra team will probably ponder the question for as long as they ask themselves anything at all about motorsport. Moffat talks on national television of his hopes and fears about the outcome of the race.
Scheduled pit stops. I was very pleased to see the front pads changed in a hurry because I had been giving the brakes plenty when I was out there, and there's nothing worse than handing a car over to someone and knowing that, a little bit funny. I've been around here with no brakes with the last 20 laps ago, and I know what the feeling's like.
How nerve-wracking is it at this sort of situation? Like you've got to watch the car and just, it should stay together, but there's always that niggling doubt.
Well, it's better off being here, and I can let Greg do the worrying. You do tend to start hearing things that you shouldn't be hearing. You're not going 99%. You're using a bit of caution, which is using a bit of common sense, and just nursing the car around. That gives you a chance to hear a few things that you don't normally have the ability to pick up on. But we've got such a fabulously prepared car that I really think, bar there seems to be so many accidents, as long as we stay out of someone else's catastrophe, we should have a good chance of coming home.
As the wait for resumption of racing stretches agonizingly, the nerve ends start to stand out, and the strain, so carefully under control for so long, shows on faces. The tension is unbearable. Finally, the signal comes that the track is clear.
Back to racing. Getting Stewart car number 44, the Caltex car. There's Tony Longhurst tucked in behind. I think it's Greg Hansford
Looks
at the
like
wheel
Greg
of that
Hansford,
car.
yeah, it's got that sort of Greg Hansford look about him.
It is Hansford at the wheel of that one. And then the Harvey Bartlett Commodore number 12 in this diminished field with John Harvey at the wheel.
Having repaired their broken rocker stud from a few laps back.
Look at the grunt of Tony Longhurst's car as he makes his way up Mountain Straight and goes comfortably by.
Are you going to go the last stint?
I'm looking forward to it, but we'll just watch the pattern here over about the next 10 laps and decide whether I want to go the whole 30. Klaus might be wiser for us to put him in there and do sort of 15 or 20 and just make sure that we've well and truly broken the back of the opposition. With the way the pace cars are allowing the field to bounce up, we're only just sitting with admittedly a lap, but any unforeseen problem, and then we've got difficulties.
How do you think you'll...
Perkins is lying in wait there behind Longhurst, so it's not a lay-down misere yet.
How do you think you'll feel during that last stint?
Well, I'll be trying very hard to keep my mind on my job. I won't allow myself to have any feelings.
The end is now in sight. Soon the car will have led for 100 laps, and it would be extraordinary if it were to fail beyond that point. The ANZ Sierra team has not put a foot wrong. It's run a careful race, a conservative race. The win is there. It's so close the team members can almost visualise the last lap board and the checkered flag. A little over 30 laps, an hour, and victory at Bathurst will belong to them. Was there a point where Allan Moffat actually began to think that he mightn't win this race? Where he could no longer imagine the crowd beneath the victory podium? Where he could no longer hear the cheers? When he couldn't taste it and smell it? When the feel, the sense of what it would be like to win at Bathurst after so long, began to slowly slip away, to be replaced by a nagging certainty that something was wrong.
I had a premonition sitting here Sunday afternoon waiting for that last session to arrive. When I say last session, I mean last segment. Greg was in the car. We only had just on 30 laps to go. I didn't know what it was, but I was nervous. I didn't comprehend how we could lose, but I just had an uneasiness. When he came in, and Broody had been on the radio, was prompted in advance. And I saw the bonnet go up. A great fear of failure when you see the bonnet goes up.
And I got an unconfirmed report.
Things can happen at a pit stop. You might have a bad wheel change. What's the worst you can get? 20-second penalty. You can get back out in the race.
Klaus is saying, could someone, would you mind clearing the windscreen for me? There was some steam out here. Maybe nothing.
This is normal procedure. They fire the water into the thing while
And just
it doesn't rocket off the clock in terms of temperature. They've been in there now for 45 seconds. This is not good.
On at 49.50.
Saw.
Stop, actually.
Having trouble firing it up, apparently. The word we have from the pits there's Rudy Eggenberg and the Swiss tuner at the front.
Just checking to see what the was there.
A year of my life.
One of these boys.
He's been in there for just over a minute.
Stupid, isn't it?
Trouble firing it up, apparently. The word we have from the pits there's Rudy Eggenberg and the Swiss tuner at the front.
Just checking to see what the team is there. It's called one of these boys.
He's been in there for just over a minute now, so
this is a problem.
Yeah, they got drama. So Tony Longhurst must be about coming off the mountain now. John Brady in the pits. What's happening down there?
Yes, they're working on the spark plug at the moment. They've got those pulled. They're working on water pouring out one side of the pressure. You were just talking about then pressuring it in. Just why the car's not starting is a good question at the moment. But
we've heard
Klaus Sneedswitz did not look happy in the second he tried to fire it up. You just saw a look of exasperation on his face.
That looks very much like a cylinder head gasket to me.
And Longhurst has gone through to the lead. Here that there's oil floating around in the water in this car, and if that's the case, she's going to be in problems.
Oil or
The first time it did it was just at the end of Conrod.
There's Longhurst at the end of Mountain Straight.
So Frank Gardner any moment will be up there saying easy, very easy.
Well,
imagine. Al, you've just seen us slip away. You know, he's won it 4 times. He's looking at 5. Be feeling very sad. You know, he's a
Went off, did it?
What did you feel?
So I backed off, and it just felt like it's dead.
2 minutes 10 together and get it all happening.
Yes, I became quite friendly with the period of time Allan was driving with me, and I know exactly how he'd be thinking right now, but you've got to be philosophical about these things and sort of live to fight another day, I guess.
Exactly. 2 minutes 45 in the pits, and car number 10 goes to position 2 in the race, although I think it's some laps down. But nonetheless, still good for Holden at the moment.
Well, the number 9 ANZ Sierra car has actually led for 99 laps.
Anyway, here we go. We're going to try it again. Cloud firing it up. There's plenty of Germanic technology there amongst all those guys.
I think Rudy has waved it away.
The car is kaput. Yeah?
The team not too happy about it.
One slow lap trying to see if it was going to cool down again, but didn't do anything, so I came in and it just wouldn't restart again. We don't know what's the matter. We need to let the car.
I love the people that I work with. And I was so proud to have Rudy and Klaus with us this year. It wasn't that we had an overkill situation and, aha, we'll get you this time, chaps. It was the best possible combination to fight this mountain with. Because that's what we're fighting. When you operate at our level without sounding snobbish or offhanded, we hardly think of the other teams. They've got their own problems. Our fight is with the car to make it as fast as possible and to get it home. We didn't do that this year, but we'll sure be back again to try again.
He's the Grand Marshal for this year's race. The champagne is spraying. The crowd love it. It's a great scene. Tony Longhurst and Frank Gardner have worked so many years for a big race victory, and they pulled it off here this afternoon. And what an exciting time for young Thomas Mazera, the former Australian Formula Ford champion who's been to Europe to get experience the last couple of seasons, to come back here and share in such a tremendous victory. We're going to get the drivers in here. Tony Longhurst, come on in. Mr. John Ryan, the chief executive of Bond Brewing.
CEL, Communications and Entertainment Limited.